Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Boom, and welcome to the Big Honker podcast brought to you by Gundog Outdoors. I'm Jeff Stanfield with the world famous Andy Shaver.
Almost forgot my protein shake in there, Jeff. It's bulking season. It's bulking season here at the Big Honker podcast.
What are you bulking for?
It doesn't matter.
I mean, you did almost throw a no-hitter in kid pitch baseball the other day, so I was pretty proud of you for that. And actually, everybody, I was making fun of Andy's baseball managing debut. And you went 1-0. You done pretty good. And you done a good job of telling the kids where to throw the fucking ball to.
Yeah. We can talk to this guy about it.
Yeah, that's what we're fixing to. That's why I started off with your baseball.
The manager is only as good as their players. So,
listen, it's tough. I'm coaching 8U. It's coach pitch.
Sure.
And baseball is one of those things that you could do nothing but practice for like 5 years, and you would never teach the kids every possible scenario that they might run into.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm coaching my 5-year-old right now at coach pitch, and it's the first organized baseball he's ever played, which is, kind of funny given my background, but he's, really generally has no idea what's going on out there. I mean, and most of them don't. I was talking to my wife last night about it. I was like, the difference between talent levels and a 5-year-old, they can seem so much better, but they're like, everybody's really close to being equally like the same. It's not if you can throw or catch at 5 years old, like you are Mickey Mantle.
I told Andy, first of all, our guest today is Jay Bruce, former Major League Baseball player, a first-round draft pick in the Major League Baseball, a bonus baby. You were. Now we're gonna.
I was.
We're gonna get into that in a minute. But I told Andy, when I coached kids sports, my record was like 191 and 22 over the years of my 3 boys growing up. But I had a whole lot of talent and very little bit of coaching experience. We just were better talented than everybody else. So, but when you're dealing with 5 and 8 and 10, about 10 years old, you really can start telling the difference in a kid. But even 8 and under, the kids are kids.
They are, and honestly, the best asset you could have on your team is a team or a mom on the team that's a teacher. Like, it's like a classroom atmosphere, Like, it's like if you can get them just to listen to what you say. Like, we played a girls team the other day, and they kicked our ass, dude. They beat the shit, because they listened and they weren't crazy and they paid attention, and it was impressive.
It's funny. You're a former Major League Baseball player, very successful. And there's that guy that's coaching across there, and he's like, "Who's that fucker think he is over there?"
He's changing my son's batting stance. How dare that son of a bitch? We worked all weekend on that.
Oh, dude, there was a game. Yeah, we had a game 2 days ago, and the kid comes up to the plate, and his dad is telling him to get both of his elbows up. So he's up there like this. And so I walk up to him, and I'm like, "Hey, dude, just relax this front elbow. Like, just relax up here, man. Like, we're all having fun. Like, you just relax. You can't do anything like this, man. Like, can't." And his dad was watching, and I felt bad afterwards, because I'm like, does his dad think, like, that I'm an asshole because I told him, like, basically told his dad to, kiss my ass, and this is not how you hit? But I'm like, the kid was not having fun at all, and it was a situation that I probably could have avoided, but I'm like, no, I gotta at least tell this kid, like, you're not going. I don't know if you're going to be any good at hitting, but you're definitely not going to be good at hitting like that.
The first game that we had, I had a kid go up there, and he was gripping the bat so hard, and from where I was standing, I could see his hands. The knuckles turn white, and it's just he's shaking. And of course he's struck, and I'm telling him, like, you got to relax, just relax. You do good in practice, like, just relax. I don't know what's going on right now. And of course he struck out three in a row. Gets back to the bench, starts crying, and I'm like, dude, the very best in this entire world are gonna hit 1 out of 3. That's cream of the. You're winning awards if you go 1 for 3.
Oh, shit. Absolutely. That's what I told. I said I made a living off striking.
Right. Yeah.
Struck out like fucking 1,500 times in my career. Yeah. Played 14 years, made 3 All-Star teams. So like, it's okay.
And then luckily, next time he came up to bat, the catcher on the other team, it takes 10 minutes for the catcher to get dressed at this age. So he was standing in the batter's box. There was no catcher. We had a while, and he's up like this, and he's just shaking again. I said, "Put your bat down." I said, "Just relax."
No, it's not.
We're not doing anything. I'm not throwing the ball. Catcher's not there. Like, just relax a little bit. And I went up to him like, "Listen, you're a good hitter." I was like, you got a nice natural swing. I was like, you just got to relax a little bit up here. Have some fun. You're 7 years old. Like, I don't know what preconceived notions is in your head.
I told you something or other. Yeah.
Like, we're fine.
I want my kids to stick around and get a snow cone at this point. Honestly, like, if you just don't cry before the snow cone, that's a win. I don't care. I really don't. I think youth sports is, first of all, it's been monetized, which totally fucks it up. Like, 100%. Anything that starts to involve money, it's gone. Like, when I played baseball when I was younger. It was little league. You played a little fall ball, and I was just like, I was out at the ballpark as much as I can to steal foul balls and bring them home so I could hit with them. Like, I wasn't playing 80, 90 games a year for select and paying $100 a week on, lessons that an 8-year-old can't even apply anyway. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much bullshit that goes on in youth sports these days, and I want my kids to have fun and get a snow cone. Like, that shit's going to take care of itself.
Yes.
Down the line.
That's a good approach. I think Roger Clemens got chunked out of a youth baseball game for doing something one time. And I'm pretty sure that's pretty correct. The problem, or one of the problems, is everyone thinks their kid's the next Mickey Mantle. And that's sad. And they spend all that money and stuff. And I know I have a guy that hunts with me. It's a professional little league coach. That's all he does. He lives in the Dallas area, and he coaches probably about 6 different little league teams, and he gives lessons all the time. And I think he makes $75 an hour, and he messes with your kid, and he stays busy. And he's making $400, $500, $600 a day teaching the.
Oh yeah, man, it's a racket, dude. It really is. And I mean, and I have parents coming to me all the time asking, "Hey, what my 8-year-old's doing this or doing that, and what should I have them, taking lessons?" I said, stop. Mm-hmm. Let them have fun. Make sure they don't hate it by the time they're 13. And at that point, the game's going to choose you, whether you're going to be good or you're not going to be good. Like, you're going to know damn good and well whether or not you're going to be able to have successful high school career or even a college career, or almost no one plays, in the major leagues or professional baseball. So it's like, that stuff's going to take care of itself. Like, make the game enjoyable for them, because most people only play it for enjoyment and you're growing lifelong fans. Like, 99.9% of the people that play youth sports end up being fans of the sport that they play, not playing it. So it's like, to hell with the people that are actually going to be playing it. That's going to take care of itself. Like, let's create people who enjoy the game.
We had a kid out here. He was a lefty. How hard did he throw?
He threw in the 90s, and he could throw everything, every single
jump
pitch.
Ball, fastball, like, he had everything.
It was going to be a first-round draft pick.
His dad, from the time he was 8 years old, had him throwing 100 pitches a day, rain, snow, sleet, or shine. And by the time he got to be 16 years old, junior in high school, he said, "Fuck this, I'm done. I do not want to pick up a baseball again." And everybody's telling him, like, listen, you have a shot at being, because he went to a big school in Wichita Falls. So, I mean, he wasn't at a podunk school like here where we are. Like, he was at a big high school, and he was putting up numbers. And everybody was telling him, like, 2 more years, and you can ride off into the sunset. And he said, I'm fucking done.
Well, listen, think about it this way. So Major League Baseball starts spring training in February, right? Mid-February. We play until October. From October until mid-February, you don't fucking play baseball. Like, you work out, you get ready, you rest. It's set up that way for a reason, because too much of anything is bad for you. And I see it so much. I mean, you have 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds playing 70 to 100 games a year. And that's not because they want to. It's because they're told they should or have to. And that's bullshit, man. I don't like it. I wish Little League was more prominent. I wish people came out and just played the season, played a little fall ball, and then played other sports, like did other shit that also helped you become more athletic and a better athlete.
This kid told me he was 16 and he wanted to move in with us even.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know what? Knox City hasn't ever won a state baseball championship, but we're fixing to if he moves in here. But I told him, I said, you need to stay home with your parents. Then he got in some trouble and done some shit. But he won a regional 5A. At that time, 5A was the biggest division. As a 15-year-old freshman, won a game in the regional finals to go. So I mean, he was a very talented, very uber talented kid.
Yeah.
But he got sick of baseball. Now he tells me that he wished he would have stayed and played baseball. Well, yeah, you're
of course.
Now you're working hard and you didn't get that big check. But I told him, I said, listen, if you'll bust your ass and just do what you're supposed to do until you're a senior, you're going to get a big check given to you when you're 18 years old. You know what? I said, go play for a year or two. If you don't want to play, quit at 20. You still got that money you put in the bank. You'll be taking care of the rest of your life. But you know, when you're 16 years old, a 50-year-old guy is not very smart.
The foresight is not there at young.
It was too bad. All right, we're gonna talk about other things now because we can talk kid baseball all day. Yeah. First of all, Fergie Jenkins was in here was on with us the other day, and Fergie talked about. And you said your off season was not doing much. He played for the Harlem Globetrotters, so there you go. Teach your kid to play play basketball.
Exactly.
And one of the greatest ever. You said a minute ago, you said the problem with kid sports is people are monetizing it, making money. Now, we all three are in the hunting business, so that could also apply to the hunting business, couldn't it?
Yeah, but we're also not fleecing parents off of emotional, we're not selling false goods.
And the other thing is you're not there's no like, hey, you can become this professional hunter and make millions and millions of dollars. Like, I feel like the hunting industry is trying to like forge relationships between, different people and father and son and buddies who are going out and spending time together, and the conservation side of it and the memories that it's creating. It's not selling it's selling a dream, but in a different way. It's like, I get to hunt all the time now because I got to live my dream playing baseball, but hunting is for everyone.
That was a good answer because someone was going to say that. They were going to say, well, hell, they're making money
but
selling hunts.
That's an extreme scenario. These coaches are getting up there like, okay, like if you just give me this amount of money, a month, like we can work on little old Jimbo. And before you know it, like we'll have scouts at the game at 14. And so, it's a little different. How
does Jay Bruce, the baseball player, you were 18 years old when you got drafted. And you got a pretty good check. I can Wikipedia. They got a lot of information about your financial stuff right there.
Yeah. So some of it's wrong, but I signed for $1.8 million out of high school.
They got that right.
What is that like?
And my dad. So it's fucking nuts, dude.
I bet.
Honestly. My dad was a plumber. My mom was a teacher's aide. Like lived paycheck to paycheck. Lived in a rent house until I was 13. So I humble beginnings for sure. Never went without though. My parents did an incredible job of at least hiding any, financial situations or hard times that they went through. But obviously we weren't, and we didn't have any stocks or anything like that. I can tell you that, but, man, it was crazy. I think that for me, I was very fortunate to be surrounded by people that really had my best interest at heart. And a lot of people are not surrounded by people that way. And for me, the community that I grew up in was extremely supportive. I used to go door to door and raise money to go play select ball when I turned 15 or 16 years old. And I mean, if it wasn't for those people, I couldn't, I wouldn't have ended up where I am now. So that whole financial windfall that I had at such a young age was really incredible, man. I mean, I still at times can't wrap my head around it. The numbers that I was introduced to at such a young age and still today are just stuff that you try not to pay too much attention to it, or else you can get too wrapped up in it and just start taking yourself too seriously, or I just I tried to settle into a lifestyle that fit my, what I wanted to do, and seems to be working out okay.
What's the first thing you bought? Did you buy your new car, new truck?
So I paid my parents' house off.
Good kid.
Bought them a new car. bought my sister a house, and then I was playing, so I mean I didn't even have I didn't have a car until until I got home. So I didn't ever have a car growing up. I didn't get my license until I was 18. And so I got home from instructional league and bought a vehicle. But yeah, I took care of them first, man, and made sure they were all good, and that's what I felt like I needed to do or wanted to do, and yeah, so got home and bought a Yukon when I got home. So
let me ask you
this.
Good
character, man.
You get $1 million, you get $1.8 million.
That's almost $2 million.
Yeah.
Call it whatever. By the time you get,
it's about 700,000 with taxes.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what you hear. Everybody's like, man, if I get $1 million, I'm gonna take care of these people and these people. You were 18 years old, so like you also knew the odds were you were gonna keep playing. But for people that are getting like a one-time $1 million check, probably not the best financial move to take care of everybody in your circle.
No, for sure. And there are ways to do it too. Like you have some borrowing power at that point where, if you're connected or not connected, but if you are surrounded by the right, kind of support group, whether financial advisor, agent, there are ways to help without, leveraging yourself too much. And it's something that a lot of people don't do. And it's tough because you do feel like, especially, a lot of people don't come from a whole lot. So they feel like, they got to put everybody on their back when they make it. And you have to be careful of that because you can, kind of burn, the head start that you have potentially and, kind of be back in the same position as you were before you started, before you know it, if you're not real careful with it. But, fortunately for me, I never had to really worry about that. I, got drafted at 18, called up at 21, never went back to the minor leagues, and, played forever and made a lot of money. So,
and I want to talk about that. I know that that's kind of a personal deal, but it's not fair for an athlete that everything you make is public record. I've never understood that because
it is interesting, and I don't know why either. I think there's a fanfare to it, though. I think that there's a connection to like, hey, this person makes this much money. Oh, that's so crazy. Like now he needs to perform at X, level because he's getting paid this much money, and it creates a buzz, I think, around the teams. And then you have all the like net worth websites and stuff like that that are just complete bullshit. But yeah, the earnings and stuff it's spot on,
and that's crazy because like my banker, I don't know how much money she makes,
right?
But you're not a publicly traded company. That's what surprised me. But my question was, in 2010, you made $440,000. In 2011, you signed a 6-year, $51 million contract. Is that when you finally realized that you were taken care of for the rest of your life? Probably.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like I put myself in a good position before that to at least like if I blew my knee out and could never play again, like I could go home, go back to school because college was paid for when I got drafted. I could go back to school or go to school and make a decent living and not be in a bad spot. But yeah, that was a big reason that I signed that deal. It ended up being a 7-year, $63 million deal because they picked up the option. But I was 23 years old and I was looking down the barrel of over half $100 million. Like, and I was going to be a free agent at 30 years old. And at the time, 30-year-olds were still getting 6 and 7 year deals. So like the time that the age at which I was going to become a free agent again was really, really important. I knew that whatever money, like dollar amount that I signed was going to take care of me forever. And I hoped that I was going to be leaving money on the table because I hoped that I was going to outperform my contract and sign another deal that was worth way more money. So yeah, for me, I mean, it was a no-brainer because I was able to secure, $63 million at 23 years old, which obviously, really doesn't happen for anybody. Right. It's funny too, is so I got to know Scott Boras fairly well throughout my career, and he was always in LA and he'd see me, and every time he'd see me, he would tell me that I signed the worst extension in baseball history. obviously coming from Scott, like he wants you to get every penny that you can get. And, when I signed my extension, that like 10 through 16, those years were like my best. I hit 30 home runs every year. 2014 and 15, I had some injuries, but I had 30 home runs. I was driving in 90 something runs. I finished second in the Gold Glove, All-Star, Silver Slugger, stuff like that. And so, I understood where it was coming from, but also like I was a kid from Beaumont, Texas, with a plumber and a teacher's aide as a mom, as parents. So it was like, $63 million was going to be okay for me.
Yeah, I don't think anybody should frown at that. It's funny. I asked Fergie about that because if Fergie Jenkins was pitching right now today, he'd be making $40 million a year.
Oh, geez. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, what did he tell us he made? Did he make $1 million a year ever? I think he got a 3-year, $9 million, $6 million deal his last year.
Look it up.
But
he didn't.
That was probably.
And he was
crazy at his.
Yeah.
At his time.
And Jim Kern, another friend of mine, that played in the majors forever. Jim was one of the best middle relievers in baseball. He would have been making $3, $4, $5, $10 million a year also, and it's just crazy the amount of money. Yeah. You talked about the contracts. Bobby Witt, I've known Bobby forever, and his son is the new
incredible.
Going to be
incredible.
Going to be a hell of a player.
Yeah.
But Bobby told me when he signed with Tampa, he was right when Tampa Bay and Arizona came into the league, and he was up here, and he told me, he said, I think I'm going to probably play a couple more years, because he said, I'm not the best 60 starter in baseball, top 60 starter in baseball. But he said, we're going to add 10 more starters now. And he said, I'm definitely one of the top. Is there 30 teams in pro baseball?
30 teams.
So there's 150 starters. He said, but I'm definitely 120 to 150 starter. So he said, if I sign another 2 or 3 year contract, my grandkids should never have to work the rest of their life. And I think he got like a 3-year, $12 or $15 million deal. And I don't blame him.
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure, man. And, I got to where, last year was my 14th season to play, and I was like trying to change positions. I had to sign a minor league contract and make the team out of spring training, and I did that. And I wanted to give it a fair shot that last year, and it wasn't feeling the way it used to for me. And, I was already, had my 10-year, I was fully vested as far as my pension goes. Made more money than I could ever imagine. And I accomplished everything that I could have ever dreamed of. So it wasn't like I was leaving. I felt like I was like being, something was taken from me, or I didn't feel jaded towards the game at all. Like I was like, hey man, I gave it hell. I had a good career, and my kids are starting school, and it was like, it's time for me to go. Like that's what it is. So
yeah,
I've got no regrets, man.
The Tom Brady thing, and I just looked up Fergie. It said if this is true, in 1982 he signed a 1-year contract with the Cubs. Of course, that was towards the tail end of his career. Base pay agreement was $225K, and he had $40K in bonuses he could have made. So,
and it's crazy, it really is. I mean, the whole free agency deal, and then just the business that baseball turned into is what has created all these salaries for everyone. That was the interesting thing with the lockout and all that shit is like, it's almost like sometimes fans are pitted against the players making, for this or that. And it's like, hey, like the money's going somewhere, right? Like money's either going to the owners or it's going to the players. And a lot of it is the money that you spend watching, whether it's on TV or it's on an app or it's at the game, like it's going somewhere. So it's, it's like workers versus owners, and it really, what side do you stand on? And, I don't know. It's interesting how it was all kind of posed. And like, I think the owners should have the lion's share of the money because they're the owner of the team and that's how it works. But I didn't like the, I guess, vitriol that was like being shoved into the players' like side, like, oh, these, rich, whatever, prima donnas. It's like, well, hey, listen, like these owners are trying to get every piece of dollar they can from the player that is the product that's on the field that you're coming to watch.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, everybody's got to, at some point, everybody has to look out for their own best interest. Yeah. What is it like whenever you get traded? Is that because that's another weird deal? Is like you spent 8 years in Cincinnati, and they preach this. Okay, like you're the Cincinnati boy, you're the Cincinnati kid, and then it's like, well, now you're going to the Mets.
So, yeah, there was a lot of emotions there. So in a lot of ways, like once you get traded, it's like, all right, there's like these emotions you feel like, man, these guys don't fucking want me anymore. They don't care. Like everything I've done for them, this and that. And then like once the dust settles, you're honestly, you feel a little liberated. Like, it's like, hey, like now I don't have I'm not beholden to anybody. I can be beholden to myself for a little bit. Like, this is now a business, and like loyalty does not exist. Like it only exists for as long as the team needs you. Right. And there are very rare scenarios where one player stays with the team his whole career, and even if he probably doesn't deserve to, have the contract he has anymore because he's so old and whatever, blah, 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 blah. But that really doesn't happen that much. And, so for me, once I left Cincinnati, it kind of became a traveling circus for me. Like I was, I got traded all over the place, and, I ended up liking playing for the Mets. So I signed back there as a free agent after 2017, and I just didn't play well. I got hurt a couple times, and so that didn't work out for me as great as I wanted it to. But like, getting to experience other clubhouses and other kind of environments ended up being a lot of fun. I think back there's a couple guys, really just one. I think Joey Votto is still on the Reds. He's the only player left from the team that I was on. And it's just crazy to me that like he hasn't experienced any other clubhouse or city or anything. And I'm very thankful for being able to do that. But it is a whirlwind, man. Like, I basically found out that the trade was final on the bottom line, on ESPN. We were off on the trade deadline, and I kind of heard rumblings, but like it was official when I saw it across the board. And we had a young son. We had our first child in April of 2016. I got traded in July. So like here we are in our condo in Cincinnati on an off day, and like my wife's sitting there with our 3-month-old, and like I got to leave to go to New York. And so she's there, and like that's it. I was playing the next day. I was facing Tanaka in the Subway Series the next day.
Holy cow. But that's what's funny, because, you see all these analyst types, and they're like, oh, he should take a hometown discount, and this town's been good to him. And it's like, no. The moment the moment his stats start to decline, they're going to trade him or cut him.
They're not going to. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And listen, it is your prerogative as a player. If you want to take a discount because you want to stay a place, that's great. But I do not you are allowed and encouraged to go chase and make every single dollar that you can. Like Zach Greinke, someone asked him one time, like during the winter meetings or something, they're like, hey, like, what's it going to come down to for you as far as where you sign? He goes, I'm going to sign whoever gives me the most money. That's where I'm signing. And it's like, for once, someone actually fucking says the truth.
It's what everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And it's like, he pulled the Band-Aid off. He's like, to hell with this. I'm going to where I get the most money. If that's Kansas City or Pittsburgh or Tampa, I'm going.
I understand a guy like Pudge Rodriguez when he was going to get traded from Texas the first time, and he went into Tom Greaves' office and said, hey, I want to stay here, and went there without his agent. And I'm sure it pissed his agent off, but he wanted to stay there. His family was there. He'd been on the team. And I understand that. Like you said, that's your prerogative as a player. Sure. But now baseball contracts are guaranteed, right? Forever. Because like there's still guys getting paid that hadn't played in 7-8 years have been hurt.
Well, I saw Ken Griffey's. He's like the 5th or 6th highest paid Red player on the team this year.
Yeah. Bobby Bonilla Day is like May I don't know.
It's coming up.
14th or what? Yeah. And he's still getting paid. I mean, Gil Mesh, you can look it up. Gil Mesh, Jason Schmidt signed a 3-year, $50 million deal, and I think he made 3 or 4 starts. Yep. Like, it just didn't, and that's the beauty. I mean, God bless America, like it's, that's the thing. And, bless whoever the union heads, Michael Weiner and Donald Fear, the guys before me that fought for all that stuff. And that's what makes baseball like, one of the head and shoulders above a lot of these other sports. Is it's all guaranteed, man. Like, and it was all fought for and bargained for, and the line in the sand was never crossed in that sense.
The NFL is really screwing up because they're going to these guaranteed deals, and the NFL's a different monster, and that's why you should take all that bonus money you get up front. But Kyler Murray is going to be the straw that breaks the camel back on this deal, because he's gonna hold out, and I think Arizona is nuts. I would not even negotiate with him. He's got 3 more years on his contract. You're going to play at least 2 more years before I negotiate. You're going to win something before I give you any money. But his little, and he's going to get hurt because he's just not very damn big, and they're going to be on the line for about $150 million, and he ain't going to play but another year or 2, I think, because they're getting hurt.
You know what's interesting about the NFL deal, too, and I understand that not all the money's guaranteed, so I guess this gives them some leverage one way or another. But in baseball, you can't just go ask for
Yeah, I don't
contract.
like that.
They'll be like, yeah, sure, you want one. That's great. You have 3 years left on your deal, so
yeah,
sorry.
We're seeing that more and more. It's like whenever the market resets or whenever somebody gets paid higher, wait a second, like I need this contract now. It's like, no, you signed a 5-year deal and we're on year 2.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's like a good faith deal going on. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of good faith in football, really, and it doesn't seem that way. Right? I don't know if it's like an understood, like, hey, since the money's not guaranteed, like you're allowed, we will listen to requests for, upgraded deals or whatever. But I've always thought that was interesting that you can just go the football, you can request a trade, you can request a new contract, and a lot of times it happens.
What gets me is in Arizona, I'm going to use the example. The only way to win the NFL anymore is you really got to watch that salary cap unless you're the Rams, and I don't know how they get by with it. But the way to win is to have a quarterback on a rookie contract. Kansas City did it. Seattle did it. So Arizona drafts a quarterback that turns out to be pretty decent, nothing great, and they got him on this rookie deal. Well, now he's played 2 years, and now he wants $40 million. Well, that kills your whole reason of drafting him in the first place to have all that money and stuff. And I'm like, I wouldn't negotiate with him. He has no room to really, he don't really have a lot of negotiation leverage other than they're scared of it. But all these wide receivers right now, Deebo Samuels, A.J. Brown, and Terry McLaurin, none of them were first-round draft picks. So after this year, they're free agents, or they're going to get franchised. Every one of them makes less than $2 million a year, and they're seeing guys making $20 million playing the same position.
Sure.
And they all want that money. But if I was NFL owners, I would stick to making people listen. This is the contract you get. We don't come to you when you don't perform and ask you to give us half your money back.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It really is. I'm not sure of all the inner workings of that whole deal. I don't know if there's something that I don't understand about the way contracts work or what. But it's a sport that has always been intriguing in the sense that you can just go ask for a new contract or ask to get traded, and it happens.
Yeah.
Baseball, it don't happen.
No.
What?
No.
What? The first time you go yard in a major league stadium, like, are you like, okay, I did it, or is it more like, holy shit, I did it?
Well, mine was a walk-off.
Oh, really? Oh,
so
fuck.
It was kind of like, holy
shit, it went.
Yeah, and it didn't take long. It was like the 4th game I was up. Like, I had a crazy first 2 weeks of my career.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it was nuts. The game was easy for a couple weeks, and I'll never forget. So my idol growing up was Ken Griffey Jr. and got to play with him. And my debut, I played center field and he played right field, which was like the twilight zone because he's the best center fielder ever, and I'm borderline league average runner that should not be. It was not going to be a center fielder. I was a right fielder, but man, it was crazy. And I remember after a couple games, he came to me after I did something awesome, and he was like, "Hey, man, only downhill from here."
Only downhill from here.
And I was like, and then looking back, he was like, he was right. Like, he was exactly right, But yeah, that moment was crazy, and I had already had a lot of success like up to that moment, and so it was like. At that time, it was probably like, it's about fucking time I had a home run. Like, what took so long, Because I was on quite the hot hand, I was the number 1 prospect in baseball, and I was hitting 370 in AAA when I got called up, and there was a lot going my way at that point. So that first couple weeks was crazy, though, man. I was like, yeah, this is easy. I'm gonna play till I'm 50,
How much does that? That's so interesting that you're like, this is easy. I've got it figured out. Is it just, what is it at that time? Is it just good fortune? Is it you're just so laser focused and dialed in on seizing this moment?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think it was chance. I think that you go up and like, you're hitting well, like, you had the momentum and the momentum kind of carried over. And I wasn't nearly as nervous as I thought I would be when I got called up. Like, I don't know why. It was, should have been, thought I was going to be, but for me, it was just like, hey, this is still baseball. Like, I'm still playing the game, and I was almost too stupid at the time to even, like, notice anything. I hit the walk-off home run, and then the next day, my first at bat, I hit a home run off Tim Hudson, and then like Tom Glavine came in the next day, and like it was just a lot of that stuff that was happening. Like the guys that I grew up watching, I was like facing and performing against. It's just. It was like I don't know. It was crazy. It was like a dream.
You're playing center field. Y'all played on AstroTurf too, didn't you, on Cincinnati at that time?
No. Yeah, we were at the new field, the new stadium. Great American was grass.
And you're playing center field. What'd you run the 40 in?
I never ran the 40. My best 60 time was on a track, and it was a 6.53. Like I was a tick above average when I got called up.
You're a fast white boy then.
Yeah, I was fast enough. Fast enough, and then, but. Everyone always knew that like the transition was going to move. Like Griffey got traded in August, and I moved to right field then, basically. So, power and my arm strength were my calling cards. I always tell people I'm in the 60-60 club. I have 60 stolen bases and 60 homers in the big league. So,
what
did something
to me? The routine pop fly for a major league outfielder seems to me like that'd be the hardest fucking thing in the whole world to do.
You got forever to think about it.
God Almighty, I hope I don't fuck this up in front of all these people.
That's a bunch of them up. I tell you that. I'm not a bunch, but I mean, I remember one time Roy Oswalt hit me a fly ball, like a can of corn, shit little fly ball, and I just fucking dropped it. Like, just and it's just a lack of focus. You think back and you're like, yeah, you watch the video and like your eyes come up just a little bit before the ball goes in your glove, and like it happens, man, and it is humbling for sure. That's what I always. So if you look back at highlights of me or whatever, like there wasn't a lot of pomp and circumstance. Like there wasn't like I wasn't a real like fiery like showboaty type player, I guess. I was always so nervous that it was going to go the other way. Right. Like I was nervous if I hit a home run and I started walking, it was going to hit the wall. And like I didn't want to be the guy standing on first base, and it's always interesting to me the people that can like have that like feel themselves like that, because it's like, man, I was trying to just to stay the line, get every base I could. It was I don't know. I had an issue with that. I wish I had, looking back, like in the moment, I'm like, man, I wish I had a better dismount. I wish I had a cooler, home run trot. But it's like, dude, you are who you are.
I didn't know it was going to go yard, to be quite honest with you.
Who's the most interesting teammate you ever had?
It's got to be Joey Votto, probably. I mean, he's got a wide array of interests, and he was always kind of reinventing himself in different ways, and he was a savant, man, like a hitting in baseball savant. He was someone like, I was really naturally gifted at the game, and Joey like willed himself to be a Hall of Famer, basically. Like he wasn't like, it would take him multiple weeks in spring training to really get going. And like he would come sometimes and look like he'd never swung a bat before. And I'm like, holy shit, like what happened in the off season? Like what did you like something, how did you hit your head? Like I don't know. You would come in and he would look crazy, and sure enough, man, March 27th, I mean, he turns it on, and he led the league in on base for 7 years in a row or something. Like just an incredible hitter and really, really talented, incredible player, and he's got to be the most interesting all-around person I've ever experienced in the game.
So how much do you try to tweak and do differently? Like you said, he would reinvent himself every year. Like how much do you try to improve on what's already there, and then how much are you like, okay, I'm just going to dance with the one that brought me, and this is what I know, and this is what I'm going to stick to doing?
Yeah. Generally, I think my approach was like dance with who brung you kind of deal. But I also, like, looking back, I think that by being able to put up the same numbers for how long I did was like a testament to evolving and improving, because the game consistently changed. Like it consistently got better. The shifts started happening. Pitchers started throwing harder. Everything was more sophisticated. And to be able to, be a 250 with 30 home run guy when I'm 22 and also be that when I'm 32, like I improved.
Right.
I did get better. And what was really interesting is I mentioned strikeouts before in the beginning, and my whole like bugaboo throughout my career was striking out too much. Oh, you strike out too much. And every single year I'd go in with this new like mental approach of how I'm going to strike out less. And every fucking year I hit 250 with 32 home runs and 90 something RBIs and 140 strikeouts. Like it didn't matter how I approached it. Like that is what happened. And I think when kind of the light bulb went off for me is when I had some of my best years, is like, quit worrying about and focusing on what you do poorly so much. Like quit trying to just fix what you do poorly and try and focus on like fill the stat sheet with more of what you do well. And then, inadvertently the stuff you do poorly will go away. Like some of it will go away. And that's where I became the most efficient version of myself, is when I figured that out and like took that mental approach to it.
You played with some interesting. First of all, you played for Dusty Baker, who's a
incredible human being,
and then you played with the kid from Cuba that could throw the smoke.
Yep.
Now
awesome.
He was a wild child, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. But I feel like I was talking about this with somebody the other day. I feel like they get a bad rap, man. Like, listen, this guy came from a communist country.
Yes.
He told me a story one time. A pair of Nike shoes, right? They were $90, $85, $90, $100, whatever, just like they are here. His father made $85 a year, like $12 a month or whatever it is, or $10 a month or whatever, like something like $100 a year or something like that. Like crazy low amount of money, right? And so like the things that we take for granted over here, and then like the authority that we respect here, it's like Araldus is like, I escaped communists. Like what is a fine for being late to the bus gonna do to me? Like this is not a punishment, like sorry, I was in my room eating filet because I've never had filet mignon before I came to America, because beef is a delicacy here, and so they get kind of a bad rap for like being these like, bad teammates or, bad professionals. It's like, well, they need a little more grace. Like they just escaped a really bad situation in Cuba, and he tried to get his family over here for months on end and didn't know if they were dead or alive, or if they got picked up at the dock, or like there's a lot of shit they have going on, man. Like they deserve a little more grace than they have. And you hear a lot of guys, we hear a lot, like if they have interpreters, like, oh, why do they have interpreters? This is America, like they need to do better. It's like, bro, why don't I drop you off in the Dominican Republic or fucking Japan and see how you do? Like even when you know the language, they don't want to mess up and say anything that embarrasses themselves or the team, so they have an interpreter. Like there's a lot of things that these guys get bad raps for that are undeserving.
Well, and all the while they're expected to perform on a baseball diamond. Like it's not like you got a 9 to 5 and like, okay, just crunch these numbers and make sure you don't make an accounting error. It's like, we're gonna put you on national television, and we want
40,000,
and we want you to fucking square up a round bat on a round ball.
And
good luck.
Yeah, and then you at the end of the game in English, perfect.
Yeah.
And then your family might get abducted by the cartel while you're pitching, and you might not ever know. You might never see him again.
That's a whole different world, that's for sure. Another guy that you played with that I always thought was pretty interesting was Arthur Rhodes.
Yeah.
No, but I used to really be a big baseball fan. I don't ever watch baseball anymore, but I used to. But he always seemed like he would be a mean sumbitch.
He was my least favorite person I ever played with.
Well, then I guess that's about right what I thought about him then.
And I think it was honestly like, I feel like he was like, he didn't like me very much at all. Honestly, and to be real honest, like I think there was just a super like break in communication of the eras. Like he debuted in 1988. Like it was a much tougher game then. Just everybody gets softer as the generations grow. Things get easier, and he had a lot of issues about the things that we were afforded as rookies. And like I don't know. He's my least favorite person I've ever played with, and I respect him as a player, but I didn't care too much for him.
See, he come across as a grouchy old fucker. That's what he come across as.
You nailed it. Yeah, you nailed it for sure.
I called that one. Just watching him around the mound and shit, he seemed like
I can't believe you said everybody I played with for 14 years. You said Arthur Rhodes. That is hilarious, man. I was supposed to do this podcast.
When I was just looking at the rosters of some of the teams you were on, and I'm thinking there's some interesting players there, and he was one of them. He always seemed like a grouchy ass. He always did. And I'll tell you another one that always seemed that way was Patrick.
You need those guys. You need them.
Yeah.
You definitely need him. He was very helpful, especially when we won the division in 2010. I feel like
he was. He was looking at it. It was on the roster.
Yeah. And he was a big part of that. Like, that kind of no bullshit, like, hey, this is how we win kind of deal was important.
And I'll tell you another guy that seems that way, and people out here are going to rip me on this because they love his son. Patrick Mahomes' dad always seemed like he'd be a grouchy fucker too.
I didn't play with him.
I knew that, but he just always seemed that way also, the same kind of guy. And he may be the greatest guy in the world, but he seemed kind of grouchy.
What were the facilities like in Cincinnati? Because like their football team, they don't even have like an indoor practice facility.
The facilities in Cincinnati were nice, man. They, the stadium was pretty new, and they took great care of us there. They really did. The clubhouse was one of the kind of the newer, like one of the first newer clubhouses, so great facilities. Like it was really nice. Great. The field was great. The ballpark's beautiful. What was interesting is this kind of ages me a little bit, even though I'm semi young, is when I got there, we did not have cell phone service in the clubhouse. Like cell phone service was still so spotty in like areas like that, so they gave us phones to be able to like communicate with our families outside of the stadium. It was really, I was blown away by that as a 21-year-old. I was like, what? You get a free phone?
But the Reds are different than the Bengals are, because the Reds are a machine. They were, Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan, them guys, where the Bengals have been the Bengals forever until,
you're lucky you're just practicing under the freeway. Like we should have you on the freeway.
Yeah. I like Burrow though, man. I think he's gonna be a good representation for that team for a long time.
Well,
he is.
One of our guides is his 17th cousin, and you'd think that they were best friends the way we hear about him all the time. So
all the time.
That's all we hear about is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow is my cousin.
Yeah,
It's like, he's sitting in the Bengals locker room right now talking about Blake Poppy.
Talking about you. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay.
It's fun.
Let's talk duck calls now.
You can make a small fortune in this because you're starting out with a large fortune. So congratulations.
Thank you. I call it a passion project.
How do you get into? First of all, Beaumont is by Anahuac National Wildlife Refuge is down there, which is one of the most famous. I'm 54, so when I grew up as a kid, that was a real famous area back when we had winter, and we had normal winters. That was a huge duck hunting area. The Jensen calls have been around since the 50s.
Yeah, 59 the actual company was founded. 52 was the patent. And I think 59 is when they won the Worlds. He was the first so we invented the double reed duck call. Invented and patented it. And then was the first double reed to win the World Championships. So 1959.
And then so you get out of baseball and then you want to get into the hunting world.
Not really. No. So my neighbor, who actually has the coach pitch girls team that whipped our ass, he is a beer distributor, like a beverage distributor around here, a Miller Coors distributor. And we were sitting around one day and he's like, dude, you're 34 years old. Like, you're not going to be able to sit on your ass and just do nothing. Like, you don't do nothing well. Like, that's not you, He's like, I have a guy that I'm on the like tugboat pilots commission with, like the rivers and the tugboat, they help kind of govern that deal or whatever. He's like, I want to put you in touch with him. He owns Sure Shot Game Calls. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, for what? He's like, it may be a fun deal for you. And he has mentioned like wanting to maybe move on from it. He's got kids in high school. He's got a wife that I think is going to start med school. We ought to just go to lunch. Well, man, we could no quicker sit down at Carrabba's for lunch, and he was talking about potentially wanting to get rid of this company. So it intrigued me because, like, I love the outdoors. I love hunting. It's a local business, and it's got such a crazy history to it, And so I start thinking about it. I'm like, man, this is crazy enough to where this might actually fit what I'm looking to do. Like if it can not just waste a bunch of money for me, and if this guy's actually serious about getting rid of it, then I would like to consider it. It needs this, it needs that. It's so old. It's, whatever. So we start talking, and our first conversations were not fruitful whatsoever. I felt like his head was in the clouds with what he was, wanting to let go of it for. And, he thought I was being disrespectful with, kind of the offer because of the brand and all that stuff. And like, I respected where he was coming from, but it was like, hey, at some point this is a business deal, and like, it doesn't make sense. So we circled back, and he basically got down to, we got to similar playing fields, and we got a deal done. And I retired on April the 18th, and I owned a duck call business on October the 1st.
That fast. How long did so you retired in April? When did you have the first meeting with this gentleman?
Probably mid-May.
Mid-May. So it took through 3 months, 4 months to kind of get them down to.
We had some conversations, and it was a while before I actually made my first offer, and I had even considered kind of trying to do my own thing at that point, because I'm like, oh, if this doesn't work out, I'm just gonna start making calls and make outdoor gear, and that would have been a terrible idea, by the way. And so it worked out in October. I had the company sign the papers on September 30th and hit the ground running in October. So here we are.
Are you a big waterfowl hunter? I know that sounds
no,
dumb,
I
but
question. Yeah, I love it. I was more of a dove hunter growing up, but when I got drafted, the seasons just lined up perfectly.
Absolutely, can't be any better.
Yeah, it can't be any better. So I fell in love with it, like starting in 2005, basically, and just kind of grew on me from there. And then, the way I kind of used it, the way I kind of looked at it was like, I got to live my dream out my first half of my life. And then the second half, like, I don't have to like go chase something. I didn't want to get back in the game. Like, I don't want to announce. I don't want to be part of the media or anything like that. And I'm like, this is a great, thing to kind of dip my toe in the water, create some relationships with people in the industry and really learn about it, and, have something that can be fun, kind of revamp a brand that people used to absolutely love, and really we'll have an easy time being a part of again if I can get it back to where I think it should be.
That's got to be a tough conversation, because from his perspective, he's got this legendary brand that's got all this history to it. And then from your perspective, it's like, okay, but, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to him, but it's like there's a million other call companies right now that have a social media and they're established in the way that calls are sold today. So you got to kind of like juggle the two.
Yeah, like be respectful of the heritage, right, and like pay homage to the history, but also, like I said, I was like, bro, you got to realize, like, if I buy this company, it can't be your grandpa's call company anymore. Like, that just can't happen. It needs to level up quite a bit, and it has the ability to, because it has an actual story to tell, and it has history, and the ring has already been kissed for it in the industry. Like, there are so many people who used to blow Sure Shot or use Sure Shot, or my first call was a Jensen or whatever. But nowadays, there's too many people doing too good of a job marketing that are doing better. and like there was no sales efforts. Like they weren't. It was kind of like a word of mouth deal. If you know Sure Shot and you liked it, you bought the stuff. He did start Facebook and Instagram, and got started an e-commerce site. So for that, like I tip my hat to him. He kept it alive. He kept it going. Really gave me the opportunity to take it and bring it to where I think it's going to go. And so that has been fun. Like we revamped the logos, like we updated them. Like when I got the company, this logo like that I have on the hat was not a logo that the hat was that was made for the company. And the guy that did the work for us, he kind of nailed it. I said I wanted to feel like it's always been there. Like it's like in 1959, these logos were created, and they still play today. And I think he did a really good job with kind of revamping it and updating it.
I think the logo looks fantastic because it has that old school kind of like it looked like it could be in a magazine in the 50s.
And we're not trying to be like the edgy, sexy, like we're trying to feel like leather and like vintage and heritage. Like that's what we're trying to embody as a brand.
Right.
So I think they did.
I think a lot of that's coming back too, like the old Sure Shot on the poster back there. You got with the mallard on it. The behind you on your right side.
Which
behind you?
Well, they're both behind them, dickhead.
Well, no, that's your other side.
The one with
the one with cowboy on it. Oh. The poster behind you.
Yeah, that one. Fernandez.
Yeah,
Cowboy
Fernandez. That logo right there. How long has that logo been around?
Yep. I mean, they started that logo in probably who knows, in the 60s, 70s probably.
That is one of the iconic hunting deals from back in the day. And see, I appreciate that because I'm old and I like old stuff. And I'm noticing the flat bill boys now are getting more into the old authentic stuff because they're as they get older, they appreciate more old stuff.
And that's going to be, I think, a feather in our hat. Like we have that. We're not creating that. We're not like fabricating vintage. We are vintage. Like that's something that we can hang on to and we can kind of own, and not ever have to like fake it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean you've got a history that's already well established. People already know your history, and it's just a matter of getting your products out there and having people kind of catch up with the times and have a social media presence, and it's fun. It's a project for you.
That for sure, and that's the deal for me. Like I see a lot of companies out there that make incredibly awesome calls, beautiful calls, and market their asses off. And I'm like, I'm certain that we're gonna make great calls and good looking calls, and we're gonna we have the story to tell. Like we have to market it correctly, obviously. But if we can make the calls and the product like everyone else is making, that quality, paired with our heritage and history, we've got a better story to tell than anybody.
It's absolutely amazing to me. I've been in the waterfowl business for 30 years, and that's a long time to be in this game. And I have never in my life did I think that the call companies would explode like they have. If you'd have told me 25 years ago, well, when I first got in the business, you bought a Night and Hell call, you bought an R&T duck call, or you bought a Tim Grounds goose call. And there was other companies. Y'all's company was around. There was a lot of them around. And nowadays, there's so many duck call companies. And all the young guides that come here, they buy 7-8 calls a year. Yeah. And it just shocks the shit out of me. The people, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows. And so there is a huge market in the call company. When I first started guiding 30 years ago, I bought one call. I wouldn't have spent $100 but one time. And that was all I bought.
Right.
They're like pieces of art now. It's like hats or shoes. Like you don't have just to have one call. Like if it looks good or the guy or it's a cool brand or it's got a story, like people will buy it. And
it's crazy. And like every time Pacific comes out with a new call, every one of my guides buys one. And it's every pro staff is that way with certain calls and stuff. And it just amazes me the amount of calls out there. But because every time I think, well, that market's got to be saturated, boom, it's all every year. It's like Chevrolet, I guess, with the new car. They come out with a new product, someone's got to buy it.
Well, that's my deal too. And I've kind of heard that like some of the call industry people are a little chippy or like they're not the nicest group of people or whatever. And like that's just not the approach that I'm taking, man. Like there's room for a lot of people in this industry, and I'm not trying to dominate your lanyard. I just want to be a part of it, and I want you to appreciate the stuff that we're doing. Like, I want you to appreciate the story. I want you to think our calls look great and sound great, and like, I want you to be able to like be a part of a brand that is like that you're proud to talk about. And there are a lot of other brands out there like that. Like, I'm not claiming that I want to be the only one or I want to crush anybody else. Like, I want to have fun with this, make great products, and like be able to do shit like this.
That would make a great T-shirt. I don't want to dominate your lanyard. I just want to be part of it. That would be a damn good T-shirt. I've never heard that before.
Well, and Jeff mentioned Pacific. We're teamed up with them, but it was Trevor's idea that we do this podcast. He was like, "Yeah, I talked to Jay at Ducks, and he mentioned he's awesome." He's like, "I mentioned the podcast and that Jay ought to come on it, and that y'all should reach out and touch base." And I was like,
"No, dude, those group of guys were so, yeah, man, they were so cool. They were so like very well, like a lot of hospitality, and like some of the other companies weren't like that there. And I'm not going to name any names because it doesn't matter. But
I have a pretty good idea.
It was confusing because I'm like, I didn't do anything to this person. You know what I mean? Like, I just came to introduce myself because I felt like that's a respectful thing to do. And like, I'm new to the industry, and the Pacific guys were so welcoming and super fucking cool. So I appreciate that.
It is a cutthroat. I'm sure all businesses are. Hunting business is really a cutthroat business. And as I've aged in this business, I've learned it's a lot better to just get along with people and try to work together. I mean, there's a huge number of customers out there for everyone to have, and being a good guy in the business will pay off down the road a long way. But
like, why burn bridges? Like,
there's
a
lot of bridge burners too out there, a lot of them, and I don't get that at all.
But I was blown away. He was like, "Yeah, I was talking to Jay, and like I mentioned that because like." There's some companies that are like, well, we sponsor your podcast. We don't want you talking to anybody else that sells a similar product. But Trevor's like, fucking, I told him that y'all would be reaching out. And I was like,
oh, it was super. And they were, like I said, very welcoming. And it was like a cool energy because it's like, they didn't have to do that, they didn't have to do that. And, I think that there's probably too, like, I was appreciative that they kind of like, wanted to kind of get to know us as well, because I think there's a lot of probably preconceived notions by people too that just assume that like, since I played baseball for a long time and I was good at it and I made a bunch of money, that like probably an asshole, and it's like I was thankful that like these guys were like, dude, I don't give a fuck what you did before this, like you're cool, we're hanging out, like we're all doing this together, like let's chill, like let's talk, and hearing kind of what they're doing versus what we're doing, and like I bought one of their calls. They bought one of my calls, it was cool.
I've never met an ex-baseball player, and the ones I deal with all hunt, have always been good guys. Football players are dickheads, a lot of them, but baseball players are not. Most of the baseball players are good guys. And I ain't gonna say that because James Washington is a great friend of ours. He's a great guy that plays for he plays for the Cowboys now as wide receiver. He's a good guy, but most football players I've met over the years are real douchebags.
I wonder why that is.
I think because they got God complex, most of them from the 7th grade on playing football. Not all of them, but a lot of them did, where baseball players have to go through the minors and stuff. Now, they're not all bonus babies like Jay here. A lot of them guys,
What's a bonus baby? I know nothing.
They get the big bonus right out. That's just what they call it.
You get a big check out of when you get drafted.
But you're a good guy because you bought your mom and dad a house, and that to me speaks well.
That doesn't make me a good guy.
Yes, in my heart, it does. You were raised right. You're a good person.
Yeah, I could say that.
You didn't buy a fur coat and 3 Mercedes Benz.
Not yet,
but it's coming.
Hey, do you...
Fuck, I might. Yeah, you never know. Make a bunch of money off duck calls, I might.
Do you remember Lamar Latham that played football for the Houston Oilers and played at University of Houston? No. He was a linebacker. He got drafted. He bought 7 Mercedes so he could drive one every day of the week, a different car.
Jesus.
That's the kind of shit I'm talking about right there. So
how has retirement been for you? Because when we had Fergie and Jim on, Jim said for the first 10 years, about 4:30, he would start like feeling like he needed to do something. Like
10 years?
He said I'll have to go back and look.
Jim's an eclectic fucker though. That's why.
But he said he was a relief pitcher, like he's an odd cat. But he said, there was a certain time every evening where he was like, okay, like I need to do something.
So retirement has been good to me so far. I tell you what I have struggled with a little bit is like time management. So basically my schedule was made for me for 17, 18 years. I'd wake up, I'd eat breakfast. I'd go to the field about 2 o'clock. I'd go home. I'd go to bed about 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'd do it again every single day for a long time. Then I had kids. So then I started waking up a little earlier during the day, and my wife would take them to the park or something, so they weren't allowed in the house, so I could sleep a little bit. But I'd wake up at 9 o'clock every morning or whatever, meet them for breakfast, go to the field. Like my schedule was made for me. Then you get to the field, and it's like you have like by the minute. Like I'd start putting my socks on at 6:30, every single day, and at 6 o'clock I'd have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and a banana, like stuff like that every single day. It's like it's ingrained into you, and so getting away from that and having just like this blank canvas to do whatever I wanted with has been a little bit of a struggle, especially with owning a company. Like, my working times bleed into family time. And like, I'm not the most efficient with my time management right now, but as far as like missing the game or like feeling like I'm, like should be doing something else, I really don't, man. I've got I have a 3 and a 5-year-old. We have so much fun doing stuff with them. I'm assistant coach on the 3-year-olds team, head coach of the 5-year-olds team. I have a great group of friends and family that like I've missed so many years with, of like being involved in their lives. I'm really focusing on trying to do that more. And then, I have to turn down opportunities to do stuff. And like, when it comes to the call stuff, you could do stuff all the time, every month. And so my schedule is still super full, and, there's a sense of purpose to it, and I'm still feeling fulfilled. So it hasn't been a much of a miss. It was weird that I didn't pack up on February 15th and head to Florida or Arizona, but, I still love the game. Like I watch it. I still like, I know the players, like that stuff's still fun to me. There's no complex where like I can't watch it or can't be a part of it or can't do any of that. So the being out of the game hasn't really affected me too much.
It's crazy because I kind of go through that when hunting season's over. Like, because now all of a sudden February rolls around and you got all this time in the world, and my day is I wake up at 3:30. I'm at the lodge by I'm out here by 4:15. Breakfast, we leave the lodge at 5. So like it's all regimented. It's hectic and it's all day long, but like every minute of my day, I know what I'm doing. And then February gets here, and I mean it's as hectic as it is. It's simple. It's like this is what we do.
It's simple and it's relaxed. Like it gives you a peace of mind. Like it gives you like some like in your mind, exactly what's going on.
Yeah. And then February gets here, and it's like, okay,
what do you?
It's 8 o'clock, and I'll do a podcast at 10, and we'll talk for an hour roughly, and then I'll be home at lunch, and
then what? Yeah.
Do then?
What shows are you doing? Are you doing any shows in Texas this summer? Any outdoor shows?
So we did the Ducks Expo.
How was that? Did you enjoy it?
For us as a brand, it was good because it was like getting back out, introducing ourselves to people in the industry, to Ducks Unlimited. People, got to see kind of the rebranding. From what I understand from other companies that have been there in the past, it still kind of didn't meet the standards of what they expected when they went. But for us, it was a good show. It was a good show. And, I'm certain that, I'm fairly certain that we'll probably be back to do it again. And, I think that they're actually trying to get a lot of feedback on what needs to improve. And so I think if they continue to do that and actually listen to the people that are the vendors and the people that are, making the show a show, I think that it can be a successful event.
Are you
for sure.
doing any of the trophy hunter shows?
No, so I didn't. So Dallas Safari, I think, is like a wait list. Houston has already passed, I think.
My suggestion it'd be I would go to the Fort Worth Trophy Hunter show because there's not a lot. There wasn't very many call makers there last year. I don't do any shows anymore because they're a waste of. Do what? That's in August.
When is that?
In August.
I think it's
okay.
in August. If I was going to do a Texas Trophy Hunter show, I would do Houston or Fort Worth. I would not go to San Antonio because it's more of a deer hunting show.
So Houston is that would be a big goal for us because we're about 80 miles from Houston.
And there's a lot of waterfowl hunters there.
A lot of waterfowl, especially along the coast and all that stuff. And we're in such a rich waterfowl hunting area. I mean, like you mentioned, Anahuac, and then we have China and Nome and all the rice farming and the marshes. Like, we've got a lot of hunting opportunities. Like, that's a big goal of mine, is to kind of reestablish the brand in this area too. Like, I feel like if you're in this area, you basically are going to have to tell me no, like, you don't want to blow a sure shot call. Like, that's just how I want to approach it, and it doesn't sound like the previous owner did a very good job of like nurturing relationships with the hunters around here. And that's something that I aspire to do a better job of. As far as other shows, no other Texas shows on the docket. I think we're going to try and do Game Fair.
I was going to recommend that. And I would try I think Max Prairie Wings has some kind of show in the summertime.
Max has Callapalooza, and then Rogers has like their waterfowl weekend, which I would like to entertain as well. So that's another thing, man, is like, I'm trying to get my ducks in a row for like, where am I supposed to go? Like, I had no previous knowledge of like anything that had to do with this industry. So I'm kind of drinking out of a fire hose right now.
Those things you mentioned are really good. The hunting shows in general have crashed. The internet has changed that whole game.
Yeah.
Because I went to Ducks. Yep. We were there. We walked around and visited. We were there for a couple of days at Pacific's booth and at Boss's booth. And a lot of our sponsors of the show were there. And I enjoyed it. I think they need to put it they need to consolidate that show somehow.
It's too too spread out, and then the indoor booths get all the play.
And they need to figure out a place to have that where they can be everybody indoor. And I don't know much about that. That's the first time I've been to Texas Motor Speedway. But
from what Trevor and them were saying, though, it was light years
better than the year before.
Better than it was the year before. Like, it was fucking spread out all across the infield. You had to go like across 4 or 5 different. It was so.
Yeah.
They have made improvements from one year to the next, and if they can continue to make improvements, it would be good.
But the Game Fair
should be like it should be a good show, right? It's Ducks Unlimited. Like, they should put on a good hunting expo.
Game Fair's good.
Game Fair. Rogers is good. Max is going to be good. In Texas, I honestly, the only trophy hunter show I would have gone to would be the Fort Worth one, just because I went there last year and there wasn't a lot of duck call people there, and they had a decent crowd. But man, they charge so much for them booths for what you get in front of anymore compared to what it used to be like.
And that's where where you kind of have to try and kind of balance is like, all right, if I go take this money that I was going to make or spend to get a booth and put it into marketing on Instagram or Facebook, like, you're probably going to get a better return on investment. But for us right now, it is important to put a face to the brand for me. Like, I want people to know, like, hey, this guy has this brand now, and just have them understand that a younger, a more like this brand is going to get revamped, going to get, have a breath of fresh air, breathe into it. So
Squad Fest also.
Are you going to do the Dive Bomb show in St. Louis?
We did talk about that. So I was on their podcast, which I was appreciative of them having me on. They mentioned that, and it sounds like a good show. I'm not. Is it more like a festival or like
it's
what?
Kind of both. So they'll have last year at least. I'm assuming they're going to follow the similar format. They had calling contests last year. It was only call makers, and then there was like there was a dog booth there. But evidently this year it's going to be open to every call makers, outfitters.
Is Boss going?
I think Boss is going to be there, so it's going to be more like the duck show.
It was a good time. We did podcasts there last year. We had a great time. But we were visiting with
there
all
was
our
a lot of
friends.
people there, so that might be one that you should look into.
That's cool. Speaking of Boss, man, so Lee's a big fan of Sure.
We had him on yesterday.
When I heard that, I was like, dude, this is badass. Like, and then especially like learning about his like history in the waterfowl photography game, and then like him being the boss, having the kind of standing in the industry that it has. It was cool. He sent me some pictures of some old school Jensens that he shot pictures of, and they were sick, dude. It was super cool to have someone like that kind of kiss the ring for us, which obviously he fits the mold of someone who is very familiar with Sure Shot, but to still be a fan and like be able to say, hey, this is an awesome brand, like we like what you're doing was a cool.
Lee is a class act dude. I'm telling you,
he's a fucking legend. And if there's ever a chance that you could like collaborate with him or anything, like he would be, if I were going to like launch a social media campaign or something like that, like you've got this rich heritage history. Yeah. I mean, he created that with Boston. They started in 2018. And then like he gave them the old school feel and the tradition and heritage. And like, that's what you've come to appreciate about Boss Shot Shells. Well, like you've already got that. Yeah. So if you could ever collaborate with Lee, like that would be.
That'd be super cool. Yeah. I hope that comes to fruition at some
Lee's
point.
A badass. Like I said, we just talked to him yesterday. Are you going to like, what's your call lineup going to be? Are you going to make new calls? Are you kind of rebranding old calls or all the above?
We are adding, also subtracting. There are some calls that we're going to kind of discontinue. Just don't really have a space in the market anymore. I don't feel like. And then we just released our new. So Sure Shot has never done a single reed duck call. Never done a J-frame. Always Louisiana style wedge peg deal. And it was, and they never really wanted to do any of the J-frame or single reed stuff because we were the inventors of the double reed call, which I respect the hell out of that. But Honda makes Accords and Jets. You know what I mean? Like there's time you have to evolve. You have to evolve. And so we worked really hard on creating a super cool single reed J-frame style call that holds a lot of the same lines and shapes of the old Sure Shot. And we released it. We kind of debuted it at the Duck Show. And so we have come out with that new call, which is called the NXT, kind of hat tip to what's coming next for the company. And we also took the Jensen, shrunk it to about 3.8 inches, and are making a super cool series of teal calls because Texas is teal heavy, I mean, and no one spends any time on teal calls, right? Like they're all ugly, they're all cheap as hell. And so they're acrylic. They're one-piece Jensens that are acrylic that are a sky blue. We've got a pearl green, and then we've got a wood duck call that's like a wood duck colored like swirl acrylic that we're doing too. So kind of introducing like a new higher end teal call to the market that I think people are going to really like. We're really, really excited about the single reed call though. It sounds incredible. It looks awesome, and we've had great feedback on everyone that's used it so far.
Badass. So, well, we look forward to watching you grow this company and watching it flourish. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, and there's some more stuff down the road. Like I think we want to entertain maybe a cut down call at some point, but I don't think that's for right now. I think really kind of dialing in what's going to be our bread and butter. From the calls, from the apparel, from the website and the social media presence. Like there's a lot of work to do. And so we're happy with what we've done so far, but there's so much room for growth. And I think people are going to really take well to, kind of the reintroduction of the brand from a personality standpoint. Like the brand personality I want to have is something that I want people to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that we're going to make awesome calls that people are going to think that are badass. So it's cool.
We look forward to it, and it's Sure Shot Game Calls on Instagram and on Facebook.
So Sure Shot 1959 on Instagram and Sure Shot Game Calls on Facebook, and the website sureshotgamecalls.com. We are going to be dropping a new website here in the next 2 weeks, so we're excited about that too. It'll be a much better user interface and much easier and more kind of aesthetically pleasing website to browse.
I bet that's been fun to set up. Want to blow your brains out.
Dude, just the options, like it's like building a fucking house, bro. Like you want to build a house. Yeah. Instead, you'd rather just go buy one that's already built because you don't have to worry about the knobs in the guest bathroom closet. So, but no, guys, thanks for having me,
Absolutely.
man.
Absolutely.
This is awesome. And where exactly are y'all located?
So 2 hours east of Lubbock, an hour north of Abilene, hour 15 southwest of Wichita Falls. So there's a little triangle. We're right in the middle of nowhere.
Nice, man. Well, hopefully we can get there sometime.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Well, they'd love to have you up, and we'll see you probably at Squad Fest. If you're there, we'll be there.
And then we're also probably going to be at Game Fair. We say it every year, but I think this year we're going to pull the trigger and go to Game Fair. So.
Well, badass. Well, y'all stay in touch, man. If y'all ever need anything from me, please don't hesitate. And yeah, y'all check out the new stuff.
Absolutely.
We're excited about it.
Absolutely. We really appreciate your time, and good luck coaching 5U and 3U.
I'm going to need more than luck, my friend.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
See you.
Interesting guy.
Yeah, he is.
I always thought Lee Rhodes was a grouchy fucker.
Lee Rhodes?
Lee Arthur Rhodes.
Oh.
Yeah, that was his name.
A bonus baby, huh?
Yep. That's
18 years old, getting a almost $2 million check. That'd be
very level-headed young man there.
That'd be a mind fuck for anybody.
Man, boy, that would be fun. Hard worker, good guy.
Yeah, I mean.
Fast white boy.
Fast. What did he say? It's 60. He ran the 60 in
6'2". That's like talking about centimeters and millimeters. I know a 40-yard dash, but that's got to be fast.
You got to do the conversion. He did the 60-yard dash.
4.5 probably 4.4, 4.5. Fast. He's fast. There's no doubt about it.
If he did it in 6'2".
I think he said 6'2". I can't remember. 60-yard dash flew me for a loop though, because I don't ever talk about 60-yard dashes. I think that's a baseball term.
Probably because that's what the
bases are.
Well, no, they're 90, aren't they? Little League is 60.
Oh, well, I don't know.
But I mean, fuck, a football field's not 40 yards either, so.
No.
But I mean, if you just do the conversion, so if you do the 40 in 1 second every 10 yards, that's a 4 flat, which is hella fast. Like
nobody's running that fast. Cheetah don't run 4.2.
Well, he's 4.2, isn't he?
Yes.
So he's a second point.
I'm assuming he's a 4.5 guy, and that's fast.
That's almost as fast as me.
Yeah, almost as fast as you. But his would be going 40. Yours would be just going the refrigerator. So it's completely different time.
Jeff, it's bulking season. All right, I'm not running much right now. I'm bulking.
Bulking up.
Bulking up.
All right. Well, if you own Netflix stock, God bless you.
Holy moly, it cratered.
It's
down 63% since last year, which
all of them are going down now. But they were all propped up during the pandemic.
Right.
I mean, that's
exactly right.
You know.
So I'm a cord cutter. I've canceled YouTube TV. There's this thing out there. It's called Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally free app, and it's got tons of
free shit
shows that we watch. Like we watched Andy Griffith on YouTube TV. Well, there's a whole Andy Griffith show. We watched The Challenge on MTV. Every season of The Challenge plays from a start to finish, and then like it's just a continuous.
How's Pluto making money? I wonder.
I have no idea. I don't know if they're selling ads. I don't know what they're doing.
Have you seen an ad on it?
Yeah, so like there's commercial breaks just like you would see on regular television, but it's got movies that like legitimate, like not, shit. Used to 10 years ago, like if you had the rabbit ears and that was all the channel that you got, it was TV you didn't want to watch. But Pluto,
I need to get this.
It's got a lot of TV shows and stuff.
God bless y'all. Have a great day.
Bye.
Let's go book and hunt.
Check out all of our great sponsors. Go check out Dive Bomb Industries, and if you're inclined, I think July 15th and 16th, Squad Fest. Alpha Outdoor Specialties, Boss Shot Shells, Pacific Call, Shin Gear Waders, Dirty Duck Coffee, Lucky Duck, Looking Glass Duck Club Podcast, Gun Dog Outdoors, Steak Plains Meats, Stanfield Hunting Outfitters, and Bangtail Whiskey.